Good morning, everyone. Thanks for making it out this morning. My name is Hector Hueso. I'm the California Director for Jobs to Move America. We're a national nonprofit organization that organizes with workers and community, environmental organizations, labor, civil rights groups, and workforce groups, all around the idea of ensuring that our transition to a renewable energy economy lifts up working families and historically disinvested communities, ensuring that these communities are not left in the dust. But unfortunately, that's partly the reason why we're here and gathered today to decry some of the actions of yet another manufacturing firm and their decision to move their operations to the US South and backing out of bona fide commitments that they made to working people in Los Angeles County, to communities, to invest in building out a highly skilled, well-trained, and well-paid workforce in this new and emerging sector. Not only that, but these commitments were critical to ensuring other kinds of public investments, sales to public transit agencies, and resources to train workers to use and adopt new technology and stay competitive in the market. So we're gathered today to renew our commitment to ourselves to not let actions like this go unaccounted for, and to call on public agencies all the way from the Biden-Harris administration, who are doling out resources resulting from the infrastructure bill, the CHIPS Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, even the Recovery Act, that's going to private firms across the country, and urging them and reminding them of the importance to protect workers, ensure job quality through this process so that things like this don't happen again, and that companies like Proterra don't back out on their commitments to workers and communities and move to the US South. So we have some speakers to contextualize a little bit more the story of this company and this problem that is happening nationally. And we'll start by hearing from some of the workers who were part of building this company here in LA County. And then we'll hear from other speakers later on. So for now, I'd like to please call up and introduce to share from his experience, Blanchard Pinto.
Hello, my name is Blanchard Pinto. I worked for Proterra for approximately 13 years. I actually started there in Greenville, South Carolina when the company was first introduced. About 7 years ago, 6-7 years ago, they decided to move to LA for what I'm seeing now is for sales. I was all in, the new technology, clean energy. So I was willing to move my family, have my wife stop working at her job, to move to LA, move my kids all here for a better opportunity. I was pretty much promised, or we're gonna have a pretty good future here. The opportunity was great, but didn't quite realize what was going on in the background. Joined the union. I think that was probably one of the best things we did here. It was able to protect me from a lot of things that are going on right now with Proterra. Our job just ended a week ago. And it seems like it was a move that was forthcoming. It seems like it was really shady, just to be point. I'm not working there anymore, so I can pretty much say how I feel. It was a pretty shady deal. It looks like they came here to get sales, get the company moving, but in the background they had other things going on. We were promised all these stocks and shares and whatnot, and through how the process went, it looks like there was a pretty big scam. A lot of people got paid for it and moved on. Meanwhile, we were left here in LA without jobs. We're still in the process of finding, our people that I work with, we're still trying to find them jobs to now, just so they can have a better future. And we still believe in this clean energy, so we're trying to, find jobs in that sector that'll still be able to help the community and have people employed, still be able to make money. It was a pretty good company. I mean, we made a lot of money, and a lot of people's lives are flipped right now, upside down. Me myself, I can use me for an example. My wife had to change her job, had to move here, 3 kids, grade school. I have a nephew that I'm also taking care of, just trying to give everybody a better life. And for them to snatch that out without any consequences, it's really what's kind of, sitting in our minds right now. This is the kind of things that make people lose their mind. You just have to be strong to keep moving. It's unfortunate, but I think we'll make it. We have a lot of support here in the LA area. There's a lot of jobs open. You see the community's pulling together to try to just give us a little bit of insights and job opportunities, which we're really thankful for. I'd like to pass this on to the next person.
Thank you, Pinto. Our next speaker, also a former Proterra employee, I'd like to introduce Armando Acosta.
Hi, good morning. My name's Armando Acosta. I'm a former employee of Proterra. As of September 28th, the company closed and everybody had to move on, unfortunately. I'll tell you a story how I started with Proterra. Jobs of America offered a pilot program, and we pretty much, it was sent out to everybody it was like a second chance program. Me, I was a drug and alcohol counselor. I was introducing it to my clients. And then I decided, they're scared to go to this kind of a program. I decided to join it and to see how it is and get experience, and then basically share the experience with my clients. But instead, I took the class and I got hired. I finished top in the class. I got hired at least 2 to 3 weeks before the class ended. So I was very excited. The pay was very, very good, way much more than I was making. So I decided to switch careers and go with Proterra. During my experience with Proterra, I got the option to switch to work in 2 departments. One was the battery, which was huge across the country. The Proterra battery is one of the most production battery here in City of Industry in Los Angeles area. So I got to work in every station. We have stations during this process, so I got to experience every station in battery for a whole year. And to me, I'm more of a challenging person. I like to learn more, and so I decided to apply to the material battery manufacturing department, which I was hired right away. So I started at the bottom again, and eventually over a year, I got moved to a lead position. So I worked for Proterra for over 2 years. So hearing this kind of a news, getting shut down, moving to the East Coast, was kind of hurtful. I wanted to retire in this kind of an industry. It's the future. I bought stocks, just like some of my coworkers, because I wanted to have those stocks for my grandchildren, and hopefully, because of the electric industry, it was growing. I was one of them that lost over $4,000 in one day, which was unfortunate. Then they told us about a new plant in Greer getting open, a huge, but nothing but battery. I was excited because I had nothing holding me down here in California anymore. So I wanted to transfer. I was excited. They were offering so many positions over there. But me, because I've worked in 2 departments, I wanted to be a supervisor. That was my next goal. I've already reached different goals within the company here in industry. So I applied as a supervisor in Greer. I went through 3 interviews, and all 3 interviews went great. I had an interview with the head of HR, which she's head of HR of all Proterra. Then I had an interview with HR in Greer, and then the general manager in Greer. And to me, everything went great. We even talked about me flying over there, and I would pay to fly over there and check out the facility and make sure the housing over there for the transfer, make it easy for me, how much it's going to cost me. They gave me that kind of impression that it was a good process of me going through those 3 interviews. And then later I get an email saying, unfortunately, we're going to go with someone with more experience. You lack the experience. And I was like, wow. 2 years with this company, 2 different departments. Wouldn't you think they would want someone like me to go to Greer, a brand new facility, to help with the battery and the materials experience? So I was a little shocked. So what I want to get to now is my last day of Proterra, September 28th. We were all doing inventory, getting everything processed, getting ready to move to Greer. And me, I'm a worker. I'm a busy bee, I work. There was a time where there was a gentleman next to me and he was just hanging out with me. And he had a question like, man, you work, you don't stop working. Everybody else doesn't seem to care about what's going on with the transfer. And I said, well, I think they do. I think they're frustrated. That's the thing. But I'm gonna work. I'm a lead guy and I'm gonna do my job until the last minute, till you clock us out. And I didn't recognize him at first, and I said, you look familiar. And I said, are you the CEO? Are you Gary? I mean, you're Garrett? And he's like, yeah, I am. I said, so you're the main guy. In 2 years, I've been working for this company. I meet you on the last day? How weird. Let me explain something to you. How do you do your hiring process in Greer? Because I don't understand. I showed him the email that they sent me, and the first thing he says to me is that you're the kind of person that we would want in Greer. And when he said that, I already knew they're not gonna hire nobody in the East Coast from the City of Industry. And I heard rumors about it. I was a little disappointed. I loved working for Proterra. I have nothing bad to say about Proterra. But the way this ended was very unfair. I think California, they invested a lot of money in California, and then to just jump and run after 5 years really disappointed everybody. Like I said, I wanted to retire in Proterra in this kind of an industry, and I didn't get to. So that's kind of my story, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Pinto, and thank you, Armando, for sharing that. And thank you both for your leadership and your work. I think both Pinto and Armando touched on one of the most important commitments that had resulted from work that we, our community partners, our governmental partners, our labor partners and workers fought so hard to bring to fruition 3 years ago when we negotiated a community benefits agreement with Proterra that committed them to working with us on inclusive and transformative hiring programs like the one that Armando graduated from, like the one that he was trying to help get disadvantaged workers that he worked with to participate in and become part of this clean energy economy and high-skilled workforce in Southern California. That's an example of the types of commitments that Proterra is turning its back on. But it's not just incumbent on community organizations and workers coming together to fight for these things. There's an important role that government and public agencies play in ensuring that companies are making these kinds of commitments when they're also going after public contracts and tax breaks and land permitting and other things that they use to grow their business and grow profits for their shareholders. And one of the elected officials that has been an absolute leader and fighter for working people worked with our coalition to pass one of the strongest versions of a jobs policy at our own LA Metro Transit Agency here in LA County, and who's been a supporter of working people in these kinds of programs for her entire career. I'd like to give her office an opportunity to share a few words. We're joined today by Senior Transportation and Infrastructure Deputy for the Office of Supervisorial District 1, Hilda Solis. Please join me in welcoming Karina Macias.
Thank you, Hector. And again, thank you, Armando and Mr. Pinto, for sharing those powerful stories. Good morning, everyone. My name is Karina Macias, and I work for LA County Supervisor and Metro Board Director Hilda L. Solis as her Senior Transportation and Infrastructure Deputy. As you all know, Supervisor Solis encouraged them to work with labor partners here today to develop that community benefits agreement. That work has really become a model for the Metro Manufacturing Careers Policy that Hector alluded to. That agreement ensured that Proterra would recruit, train, and hire people from disadvantaged backgrounds and those historically underrepresented in manufacturing. When new training and certified apprenticeship pathways were needed for hiring at Proterra, Supervisor Solis provided support and made sure those needs were met. Which arrives now that Proterra has decided to abandon its commitment to create permanent jobs in Los Angeles County to maximize its company profits where workers are not unionized. I want to say that Supervisor Solis, as soon as she heard about this decision, she immediately thought of all the workers who would involuntarily lose their jobs for factors beyond their control. Recognizing how unfair and critical our county government support would be, her priority has been to address the needs of those workers and their families who would be stressed at the impending loss of economic security. So at the supervisor's direction, the county's Department of Economic Opportunity has devised and been implementing this plan to engage workers ahead of that separation and provide them with information, resources, and tips to help them secure new employment. Last week, over 60 employees attended a hiring event that was organized by the department and were connected with dozens of employers and labor partners. And to this end, our office will continue to work with those who have been displaced and dislocated by this unfortunate business decision, and we'll continue to support creating opportunities, not only through this company, but through others who benefit from our public investments. Thank you.
So it's good to have heard from everybody, but I'm going to focus back on Blanchard, Pinto, and Armando because it's very sad to be here today. It's not sad because we're here talking to the press and standing together about the future. It's sad because nearly 100 families were abandoned by Proterra. It's sad because so much work, so much effort by elected officials, community activists, and the union together helped build that company up, helped build that site up, and it's just gone now. With JMA's help, we were able to organize that facility around 3 years ago and negotiate a first contract. First contracts are always rough. This one was a pretty good contract, and it included a training trust, which I'll come back to in a minute. So things were going real well. Over that 3 years, they built a battery plant at City of Industry, so it became not just a bus production facility, but a bus production and battery plant. They were hiring hand over fist. Simultaneously, they were building a new plant in Greer, South Carolina. They even were doing battery production at their research and development facility in Burlingame. The batteries moved from being their sideline to being their main business. So we were fairly optimistic. The workers were very optimistic as 2022 ended and as 2023 began. And in January, the company called their negotiating committee and the local into a meeting to talk about, quote, the future, unquote, where we're going this year. You know, all that going on, all that growth, increasing market share, we were optimistic about the meeting. So They begin by saying, we're doing really well, and we're closing City of Industry. We'll close the battery line at the end of March, close the bus line at the end of March and the battery line at the end of September, which is exactly what they did. There are 3 people left working there, loading trucks and moving material on, and they'll leave roughly the end of October. Their plan, whatever it was, whatever plan they made, they closed the plant that made the vast majority of their batteries when Greer was just opening and it wasn't even producing many batteries yet. They closed their only union facility in the United States. Coincidence? Not coincidence? I don't know. I'm not going to accuse them of running to the South to avoid their responsibilities to the workers that they bargained with. I'm just going to state it. It's not an accusation. It is what they did. But it's not completely out of character for them, unfortunately. They came forth and said so many good things to Hilda Solis's office and so many good things to JMA and to the union. But out of those classes, workforce development was talking about, those classes where 45 people were trained, they hired 3 of them. Meanwhile, they were still hiring off the street. That money for those classes came from the High Road Training Partnership from Workforce Development and went through a training trust that we developed with the company. You'd think that money, the time, the energy they spent on training those people and the value they brought would mean they'd want to have people move to other facilities. During the effects bargaining, when we negotiated the severance and other things about healthcare and wages, we asked for hiring preference. No, at the other facilities. We asked for just a recognition of their experience. No, they can apply like anyone else in South Carolina for these jobs.